what your colleague David Capellion wrote about here, and I mentioned to borrow from Dave Barry, I'm not making this up. Why Obama? The title of the article is "Why Obama Wars Against Judeo-Christian America." Are we sensationalizing here? Are we stretching this because we're Republican, he's Democrat, or is there really something at the core here of the philosophy that's represented by President Obama and his team?
Well, you can speak for yourself about being a Republican, Tim. I think I want to be.
No, I was just saying.
I
agree with that. I was just saying what other people may be thinking. They would say, "No, you're just a Republican going after a Democrat," and I'm trying to say that that's not true. And as you say, we're critical of the Republicans as well sometimes. Go ahead.
As a news organization, when Obama really broke onto the scene in a big way when he began, talking about running for president back in 2008. We began really seriously investigating who he is, what his positions were, as much as we could determine about, his character and so forth. And what we discovered was pretty shocking. And we've had some really bad politicians in modern American history. But, this was a guy who really, you could say, was set apart from the rest. There really wasn't any pretense like we had seen in the past. Bill Clinton, made a show about, Christianity. He carried his Bible around and, that sort of thing. And he knew the lingo, and, he tried to talk the talk. Obama was different, especially in moments of candor. We could see that this was somebody who wanted to distance himself from American, the history of America and how it was really consecrated to God from its earliest stages. I mean, before it became a nation, the day it became a truly functioning nation when George Washington was sworn in as president, what did he do? He went off to a little chapel. He took the Congress and the Supreme Court with him, and he committed this nation to God, to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, just in case anybody's wondering. He wasn't a deist, as the historians like to suggest he was, because deists have no reason to pray to God for his intervention in the affairs of men, because deists, by definition, do not believe he's active in the affairs of men. So that's, our history. Obama is very, very different from that. He wanted to tell America that, we weren't a Christian nation. He said it. And, and you look at his own church affiliation. Here he is, Jeremiah Wright's church, liberation theology. This is Marxism cloaked in Christianity. This is, reverse racism cloaked in Christianity. This is hating America cloaked in Christianity. And then now we've had 5 years of policies we can examine. And, everywhere you turn, you see that he is poking his eye and Christians, at really people of faith in general. You look at Obamacare and the way it attempts to compromise the church, to participate in things that are contrary to its most fundamental values of life and so forth. I mean, we could go on and on. I could give you a 60-minute dissertation on this, but no, I don't think it's an exaggeration at all. I think we've never seen anything like this in American history. Now, here's the good news. The good news is this is a good thing for us. It means that, because we're supposed to be thankful, the Bible tells us, when we're persecuted for our beliefs. And we need to rejoice in that. Now, I'd like to see Christians more aware of what we're talking about. I don't think they really, truly get how serious it is right now. This is a major shift in the direction of the country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we shouldn't be scared about this because, hey, we serve a God who's much bigger and more powerful than Obama.
Talking to Joseph Farah from WND.com. And folks, we understand that we here in America, at least not now, Christians don't suffer the kind of persecution that you find in other parts of the world, the Muslim countries and communist countries. We understand that, but you can get there. We're human. We're human like the people on the other side of the world are. You can get there if you continue to denigrate people and their beliefs and their Bible. And this is what's happening with what's called the secular progressive movement in this country. These people we used to call flaming liberals, but they changed the words on us, and now they call themselves progressives. They're progressing toward anarchy is what they're progressing towards. But this is what they call our communism. They call themselves progressives, but these secular progressives, they hate the Judeo-Christian worldview. They in essence, they won't tell you this necessarily, but they hate the God of the Bible and the standards that He upholds because they don't want to obey God. So they rebel against Him, and they call it a secular progressivism. That's my view on what they stand for. But what's happening here is, Joseph, here's what's, I call him Joe because I've known him for a long time, but Joseph, here's what's happening.
Before I grew up.
Yeah, that's when you grew up, and your hair got gray. But and I wish I had hair to get gray. But anyway, here's what's happening to folks around the country. This is what we got to pay attention to and do what we can to fight back against it. For example, what happened in Oregon the last few days. You had, and these are just little fires that are going on all over America, but they represent a greater movement. In Oregon, you had a couple who has a bakery, all right? I don't know which town it's in. They have a bakery, and they refused to make a cake for a homosexual couple who wanted to get married. They said, listen, I can't do this because of our Christian convictions. They can go anywhere in this town and get a cake made for them, but we just can't do this. And so a lawsuit was filed against this couple who owns this bakery in Oregon, and now the Oregon what is it, Joe? Do you know what the Oregon something or the state? I don't know what. It's some state agency.
The Nazis.
Okay, the Nazis. The Nazis. They've come in and they've said to this couple, we are going to rehabilitate you because you have a wrong worldview. We are going to rehabilitate you. Okay, you take that. That's on the West Coast. Then you go over here to the East Coast. Yesterday, Governor Chris Christie signs a law saying it's illegal in the state of New Jersey to have reparative therapy regarding homosexuality. In other words, a person cannot be a counselor and help somebody come out of that lifestyle and change. That's illegal now in the state of New Jersey. And Governor Christie thought he would go ahead and add the fact that he didn't believe homosexuality was a sin, that the homosexuals are born that way. So you're going to have, you see what's going on here, folks? Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
It shows it's much bigger than Obama, too, because Christie is a Republican governor. In California, let's talk just for a moment about this piece of legislation signed by Jerry Brown last week, which says that, transgendered kids can make their own determination about which restroom and locker room they use. Now, this is something I think really, Tim, has the power, quite possibly, to awaken a lot of people, because I think that may be a piece of legislation where the progressive Democrats, which have, an absolute majority in both houses of the legislature, and they have the governor's office, I think that this California is a liberal state. We all recognize that, probably much more liberal than the rest of the states combined. But this is a state that rejected same-sex marriage, not too long ago. Of course, a federal judge stepped in, a gay federal judge, as a matter of fact, who should have recused himself from ever participating in a decision, and single-handedly overruled all of the voters in the state of California. But I think that, there's a potential here for the pendulum swinging back. I think that these guys may be pushing so hard that with their progressive agenda, if you want to call it that, I think you even might wake up the people of California to start wondering what the heck is going on. Why am I putting my kid in a public school where boys are going to go into the girls' room and girls are going to go into the boys' locker room? I mean, this is insanity. This, even if you're not a Christian, some people have a sense of general, right and wrong and immoral behavior. This is built into people's hearts. And the agenda is on overdrive right now, and it's not just Obama. He's setting the tone to a great extent, but we've got all the cultural institutions headed in this direction. They were chomping at the bit for same-sex marriage. Look how fast this happened, Tim. 10 years ago, if you said there's going to be same-sex marriage in America 10 years from now, you'd have been laughed at. It was a big joke. I remember Scalia, in one of his decisions in the Texas case where they, basically legalized homosexual sodomy there, he said, well, this is going to lead to same-sex marriage. Everybody laughed at Scalia for saying that. And here we are in 2013, and it's a reality in some states. And, there's the Supreme Court now rules that to be against same-sex marriage is bigotry on the face of it. Incredible.
We're talking to Joseph Farah from WorldNet Daily, or WND.com, and we're talking about what's going on in our culture. And, folks, it's important that you read websites like WorldNet Daily, like WND, and like OneNewsNow.com, and listen to American Family Radio. Pray for our country and get involved where you can politically, and sign up for our action alerts at AFA.net and those kinds of things. We can't give up. As I'm going to write a book one day, and the title of it's going to be "Nowhere Else to Sail To."
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I lived in the 18th century.
I know. We don't have anywhere else to go, folks. There's no place to go start over here. So it's America do or die for us and for our children and our grandchildren. And I know it looks bleak sometimes, and we talk about a lot of bad things that are going on. There's some good things going on as well. We don't know what tomorrow holds. That's what I tell people. But we know that tomorrow we're supposed to get up and do the right thing. And that's what our job is to do here as Christians on planet Earth and here in our country. And I know most all of you listening to this program are patriotic. You love America, and you want to see it preserved for your children and your grandchildren, not just as some sort of soulless country, but the America that you grew up with, that you once loved and respected, and we want to get back to that place. Anyway, Ray, you're the preacher. I've just preached here, but I just want to encourage people to stay with it.
Tim, let me just say amen to all that you said. And Joseph, I want to ask you a question about the IRS investigations. That's been kind of pitched as if they're just looking at, quote, conservative groups, but you guys point out that really they're targeting not just conservative groups, but they're really coming after anybody who holds Judeo-Christian values. And in one of the articles in the Whistleblower magazine, you point out that at one point the IRS was demanding that Christian pro-lifers reveal, quote, the content of their prayers. That's positively Orwellian. How could that even happen in America?
It's really chilling to think that this is America, and you wonder what would our founders have thought? What would they think about what's happening today? We've drifted so far from the precepts that made this, really a country, a shining city on a hill for the rest of the world. And, people still flock to this country to escape oppression and for, to practice their faith. And, it's astonishing. You talk about killing the goose that laid the golden egg. That is what we're doing. We're strangling everything that made this country great. And the single most important thing that made it great is that it had this commitment from most people to our Creator God. And it was blessed for that reason. And it's so obvious to us, but the world scoffs at that. And but again, the good news I want to say is this. God is in the throne, and he's given us a prescription for what we need to do, what people need to do when they face times like this, and it's found in 2 Chronicles 7:14. And this is why I have called for a national day of prayer and repentance on September 11th, not just this year, but in future years as well. And if people want to find out more about that effort, because I believe, look, I don't think the politicians are going to turn this country around, and certainly the cultural institutions, the press and Hollywood and all that, they're not going to help us. We're not going to get any help. They're pushing very hard. In fact, they're further out there than the politicians are. Mm-hmm. They're leading them. So who do we turn to? Well, we turn to the most powerful force in the universe, and he's a person. We have a personal relationship with him. And believers, just believers I'm talking to now, will do this. We'll follow that prescription of 2 Chronicles 7:14. I believe we win. Mm-hmm.